right. Hello, everyone. Hey, Dana. We got Becky. Alexis. Hello. Welcome. All right. Hello, everyone. Mute myself there because that happened 30 seconds ago. And that completely overwhelmed my brain there. All right. Heather, hello. Welcome. Good to see
Eric,
you.
do we need to bring Dana on? She didn't have a panelist link.
I thought maybe I was mixing things up. I was like, isn't Dana supposed to be up here?
Yeah, probably. It's I just work here, as some of the kids like to say. Hi, Dana. All right. So as people are coming in, I want to just encourage you to put your questions in the Q&A box on Zoom. If you are happen to be watching this on YouTube, we're actually finally figured out how to get this thing to stream to YouTube instead of Facebook. So welcome to YouTube land, and the best way to join us here is actually on Zoom. So if you just go to the website, go to ADHDrewired.com and click on events, and you'll see the link there to join us here. You can be here in just a minute. If you do want to ask your question via audio, since this is used for the podcast, just please make sure you're in a quiet space, and hopefully you have headphones and whatnot on, and put in your question, go live, so we know that you are wanting to go live. All right. All right, I'll give you all a couple minutes here to get some questions in the Q&A. And I want to encourage you to also, you're welcome to use the chat, but you'll notice the default to will say to host and panelists. That will only go to us. I want to encourage you to send it to everybody. So all participants who are here, you can chat amongst yourselves. All right, Carol Lee came in. Hello. Say Becky, Chad, Hannah, Heather, Jenny, Jesse, Kathleen. Hello, hello. Some familiar names. All right. Ooh, Kristen even has a question for today. Wonderful. All right. All right. Let's just do some quick audio checks here. Ryan, hello.
Good morning, everybody. Testing, testing.
Sounding all right. Bring your mic just a little bit closer if you would.
Sure.
Got Dana. Let's check your audio real quick.
Test 1 2 1 2.
I really appreciate the spirit, the vibe. I was feeling it. I was feeling it. I was waiting for some beatboxing there now too.
I wish I could do that. That would be a cool skill.
It's one of my bucket list
Maybe.
goals. Like take
Yeah, something to develop.
legit like beatboxing class. I do this a circle singing group once a month. It's all improvisational singing, and one of the people there is an amazing beatboxer. It's just like it's so cool to see and hear. All right, Kristen, are you looking for your mic? What's happening? You look like you're looking for something.
I was trying to pick something up off the floor.
Oh. Were you successful?
Is your circle improv singing group only in person?
Yes.
Damn it.
Well, next time you're in
something
Chicago,
like that here.
right? Well, next time you're in Chicago, let's do it. It's on like whatever Wednesday it is. And it's supposed to be like on the news today too. So that's going to be interesting. So
You'll have to record that for us. So
I'll see what I can do. All right. Laura, let's hear your audio real quick.
Audio.
All right.
Sound.
Sounded all right. And Lisa, let me just check your audio real quick.
Hello, everyone.
All right. All right. So let's get those questions, because Q&As work best when we can your cue. It always seems funnier in my head when I say stuff like that. I don't know. It wasn't actually that funny. All right. And as I said,
I laugh in my head. So
thank you. I appreciate that. All right. All right, so we're just waiting for a couple questions to come in, and we will get started here in just a moment. As I mentioned, we are streaming this to YouTube. If you do want to go live, put live in your in the front of your question. Your only your voice will be streamed. Your face will not be on and everything, but we will be on the podcast. All right. So it's been a while since I've done a Q&A with y'all because I was on vacation last time.
It was so much fun. I played fake Eric.
How was it?
I loved it. I had a blast, which you knew I would. You said that.
I know you. You're an
I'm
entertainer.
such a theater entertainer. Yeah. Yeah, it was loads of fun. I was just going to remind you too. I have a question too, so we have at least two. I can't put that in the Q&A.
Okay. I think like this gave us there's a comment.
Yeah, I think we all had a blast.
Awesome. Awesome.
I'm very sad I missed it then.
Yeah, we missed Dana too last time.
Oh,
Oh, that was
Yeah.
very nice of you, Kristen.
Yeah.
I'm
Thank you.
noticing Dana doesn't have a beautiful
I was
little
just
badge.
noticing that too. Let's change that and then let's kick this thing off. So let's definitely please post your questions in the Q&A box so we can get this thing kicked off. All right. Dana, I'm making you a co-host and I'm going to give you a fun little badge there.
Can't wait to see what you do this day. I feel like it's always different.
Oh, yeah, right. I mean,
Yeah.
LCSW.
Like a horse of many colors.
Called flexible thinking due to lack of working memory.
That's one perspective. All right, let's see.
While we're waiting for some questions, I'm just going to note in the chat, someone is using an AI assistant to take notes, and I'm intrigued by this technology I have not encountered before.
So it's similar to like what's the other like really popular one? Otter. I was gonna say Oasis. That's because
That
I
one
just
is
watched
Otter.
I just
Otter
watched
AI.
what was that movie? Ready Player One. I watched it with my son over the weekend.
Mhm.
That was actually kind of a cool movie.
Yeah, I enjoyed that too.
There's another AI tool that I've been experimenting with called what's it called? Woodpecker. And on the chat dialogue will always say, Eric's woodpecker has entered the meeting, which yes,
Okay, that one wins.
yeah, it makes me laugh and I just can imagine like the marketing team sitting around their table and like playing with this idea and then like all laughing, thinking that, oh, people understand. Well, yeah, I mean, it's like about as clear as day how much innuendo there is in that.
I have a quick share around that. I was
Yeah.
looking at my maps for something yesterday, and I noticed in Little Rock, Arkansas, near my work, there is a woodpecker drive. And I mean, a peckerwood drive. And I was like, I do not want to live on that street.
I wonder how that affects the price of homes there. All right. Well, let's
Hey, that one was funny. Out loud.
all right. So, Kristen, you said you have a question, and we are gonna just wait for you to post your questions in the Q&A for everyone else, but we are going to get started here. So this Q&A goes as long as you are sending us questions or the end of the hour, whatever comes first. So, all right. So let me hit record in all the places so this gets turned into a podcast. All right, we are recording there and there. Apparently, when you hit the record button twice on Adobe Audition, that stops recording. So we are actually recording now. Okay. Oh, and Chad has a question. So we want to know if you are willing to come on and ask your question live. Just let us know that because then we can take your question first. And if you do want to go live, just put right in the front of your question, go live. All right, we'll wait for a response on that, but let's go ahead and get started with the podcast, which will begin here in 3, 2, and 1. Welcome back to another episode of ADHD Rewired. I am back here I'm returned from Mexico. Everyone held the fort down quite well. So I want to first say hello to Kristen Martz, who hosted last month's Q&A. Hello, Kristen. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I am doing well. Thank you. And I want to say hello to one of our other ADHD Rewired coaches, Brian Entler. How are you?
Hello, Eric. Hello, our fabulous attendees. Welcome.
Good to see you. And we have another one of my friends, colleagues, and our one-on-one coach with ADHD Rewired, and that's Dana Cruz. How's it going, Dana?
Hey, Eric. I'm good. How are you today?
I'm doing wonderful. Your meditation this morning for our alumni group was so nice. Thanks for doing that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for allowing me.
And we have Laura Buckingham. Hello, Laura.
Good morning.
Good to see you. And of course, Lisa Ciesla. How you doing, Lisa?
I'm good. Hi, everyone. Happy Tuesday.
All right. Well, we're going to kick this off actually with a question from Kristen because we were waiting to see if one of our other questions wants to go live or not. So while we're waiting for that response, Kristen, what is your question?
I was just trying to write it out. So, I am requesting tips for how to manage when tech goes wrong. And I don't just mean like the microphone doesn't work or something like that. My example is that all of a sudden I'm opening up my good, I have several different profiles matching the emails, and I've always had these shortcuts, okay, that go below it. It says add a shortcut under the Google search bar. And so I've had Mighty Network write on events, and I have my Simple Practice, which is my EHR records platform. I probably Facebook. I can't remember what all of them are. And all of a sudden they have disappeared. They're gone. So I I immediately get flooded with confusion, um, anxiety, and then it leads into flooding more frustration because that kind of emotional flood,
Yeah.
and it feels like a flood. I mean, we use that term in clinical work when it's big kind of overwhelm, but also just flooded with one. It clinically, physiologically cuts off our connection to the EF, which problem solving is there. I struggle with it so much, and then the frustration will lead to me just being sucked in, trying to solve the damn problem. I was sitting here for 30 minutes and realized it was like 12:22, and I went, "Oh crap! I'm supposed to be in there. What am I doing?" Because I wanted my damn shortcuts back because I didn't think, and then I had trouble finding the Gmail, so like it's all messed up. My pattern, my rhythm of showing up for here, I sign on to my kmarts at possibilities.com, da 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 da, whatever it is, and then go to the little dots that say my calendar, and I hit my calendar, and then I come in here where it's on my calendar.
You got your
And
process.
I immediately just went, where do I go? And I thought I wasn't going to get here. So I it feels like maybe like I think of like scripting a lot with communication, having, things ready to say when we know we feel that. But I can create those, but I don't know how to create some problem solving steps. What are
Okay.
some ideas around this?
All right. So one question for clarification is this uh like primarily when there's a time pressure?
No, the shortcut started yesterday. It does flood faster,
Okay.
but I thought, oh, well, I thought I was tired, and I said, I'll just deal with it tomorrow.
Okay.
And I did come in here thinking I would be able to solve it. And I think negative self-talk comes into play around this in particular for me, because it's something I am still onboarding because I'm older.
Okay.
I didn't grow up with a computer. So I think that's
So
part of it.
one of the things that I have been super like impressed with and excited about is ChatGPT has a plugin called Tech Support Advisor.
You just hiked my anxiety because I don't know what the fuck a plugin is for. Excuse me,
So
all out there.
a plugin is like, so imagine you have your home and a plugin is some decoration, or it's a cool feature that you can add to something.
How's it different from extension?
It's it is it's kind of similar in a sense.
Okay, so a plugin is like a feature featured decor.
Yes. So the tech support advisor with that is part of it's a plugin within Chat GPT. It has helped me solve every tech issue I've gotten stuck in so far. It is striking 100% like and able to help me solve different challenges, including I get to go in and like reboot my computer in like safe mode and do some command line stuff to address an issue.
No
Which
idea what you're talking about again.
right. And like, I was like, I have no idea what I'm even doing, like doing this command line stuff. And the solution worked first try. Like, so
Like you didn't know what command line stuff was until
well,
that moment.
no, I knew what it was, and I knew enough to know not to touch it because I'll break it.
Okay, so that's part of my issue. My fear around this tip, which I will still try, is that I will screw something up. But that does help with so I feel like I need lots of options.
Okay.
For those different time periods that like you're talking about time crunched or
Okay.
Must get on or
So with your bookmarks, are you on Chrome?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I use bookmarks.
So you have and you said they went missing.
Do what?
Your bookmarks went missing?
No, this is under the Google search bar where I could add a maximum of 8 shortcuts that would go directly to it. Oh shit, I'm sitting here looking at a stream deck that I've never set up. That I could be setting up. But the Google thing came up after I got it and it was easier.
Okay.
I could have that.
You know?
I also am requesting some scripts for calming the shit down too around this because I think it's specific to I don't work well with this and I have had a long history. I know Dana's going to go there. I have a long history. My brother is the tech guy in the house. My husband is good at it.
Yeah.
But we go to him, go to brother-in-law.
But it's hard when there's a time pressure and people are waiting, especially.
Well, and they have sort of not trained me. What is it? Kind of some learned helplessness, I feel like.
With the tech.
And freaking out of, oh, they tease me. Kristen broke her computer. Anytime anything's wrong. So yeah, I'd love to hear what Dana's gonna tell me.
Did they first ask you, have you tried plugging it in? Dana, go ahead.
Long 20 years ago on that one.
Yeah, the replugging and plugging in, man, that always works. But so
I do forget
I'm
that at first, the reboot.
Yeah,
all the time.
And I think that that's maybe what you hit on and what maybe I noticed with what you said, Kristen, was like, rationally, right, that working and problem solving and figuring it out and doing all the executive function strategies and skills that you know of and can think of.
Well, it does shut down. I do forget it.
Right.
Particularly depending on that moment. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, so you're saying that outside of that, separated from all this, yeah, I know these ideas.
Right. And so it's like rationally, you aren't, you're still flooded, right? You're working within that flood zone, trying to get out of the flood zone, problem solving and strategizing, but really you're in the flood zone. So I'm curious what strategies you use to downshift or transition or replace in terms of emotional regulation.
Maladaptive ones in this, I have trouble generalizing things I've learned. Like I've shared this before. My dance teacher who gave me my first job taught me how to show up, taught me what time to be there, taught me how to clock in, taught me how class starts 5 minutes after, class ends 5 minutes before to give you your break in between and to talk to parents, blah, 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 blah. And I never was able to like transplant that into my next job. Didn't dance jobs, yes, but any other kind of job I didn't know. So I'm not doing that. I'm not knowing how to transplant whatever I know into the setting around tech for some reason. And so I use a maladaptive strategy right now. I go, you stupid motherfucker. What is wrong with you? Why can't you think of these things? And I do it, but I don't realize I'm being negative until later.
Isn't that it's assumed like first step for all tech issues is, start swearing at your tech?
It's gotten better. I don't do it right away anymore. I used to do it like, oh, you need to talk to Lee. You don't know what you're doing. and I'd take my hands off. And I've gotten
So
braver
Kristen,
and better, but yeah.
what is something that you can say to yourself to replace what you currently say to yourself? If you automatically go to that negative, self-critical, I'm the dumb one in the family, I can't do tech.
Yeah.
How are you? Yes. How can we replace it? What can you say to yourself that could be
So
helpful in that moment?
rationally and clinically, I know I could, but I don't know if I'll go there yet. I could remind myself, this is your emotions starting up. So hang on. But
Okay.
I
So identifying that
I
you're
need
having
that
the
inner
emotional
voice
response.
more. Yeah, I need more of a like, okay, maybe you don't got this. And that's okay, because this is a new situation that you're not solving, that you don't know how to solve
Ah,
yet. I kind of like
yeah.
that idea, because then it
So
takes
some,
away the dumb.
yeah, some
It's
just
just, I'm
like,
not
it's
learning.
okay. I don't know this yet. This is difficult. Kind of validating and normalizing the situation a little bit.
And how can I shift to get to the thing that I need right now? Asking myself that question. Because I did go in and go, okay, wait a minute, just go to gmail.com since it's not showing up. And that's how I got in here.
Or maybe instead of going right to the shifting of what I need, again, going right to the problem solving while you're in the emotional flood, maybe a different question could be helpful at that time for you.
I think I understand what you're saying. I think I confused you. I I like that first thing that you were saying of having myself say, you're not dumb. I may have to even go there as a baby step forward. Kristen, you're not dumb. This is a new problem. And or maybe you've solved it before, but maybe it was 10 years ago. This is part of your ADHD. It forgets, those things. And then if the time, this is where I was going with this, if the time crunch is such that I've only got 8 minutes to get in here, what's it, once I calm it down, what's another way, like breadcrumb the problem, and what's another way I can get in the door here? Because it was literally a for getting here to the Q&A.
I think we're still missing a step here.
I
So
don't know.
you're
I'm
going
lost then.
right from the replacing to the problem solving. And even when you're in that 8 minute, you have a time crunch, you're still like, there's something that's missing in terms of the emotional flood. And in order to problem solve, we have to let go of, release, transform, downshift that emotional flood. So not necessarily going straight to the strategizing or the tool or how can I ask for help, but what's a different question?
Yeah, I'm drawing a
Okay.
blank.
Yeah, that's okay. So
okay,
I would say if
I'm
you're
starting
open
to feel
to feedback.
I should know better.
No.
I heard a word. I heard a should.
I did it on purpose because it was in my head. I was going,
yeah,
I should know that. And I know that's like right on the edge of negative. It's right there because I'm going, I'm a therapist. How come I don't know the question to come up with?
And definitely the changing of the language and how we can say to ourselves, that self-compassion practice of like, what would I say to a friend or someone I love in that moment? Right. And say that to yourself, but more and beyond that, and before we step to the problem solving, like, what do I need in this moment? What would be helpful?
Oh.
What is a way that I can ground myself or downshift or, give myself some, whatever your thing is that is helpful when you're emotionally flooded? Because even though you only have those 8 minutes, like, you're still not going to be able to problem solve because you're in the emotional flood.
And that speaks to the impulsivity I have with my ADHD. Because I just impulsively, it's like that pinball that I've shared in my own podcast where I'm like, it just bangs, 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 bangs. And I'm not slowing the ball down. And okay.
Brian, go ahead and jump in.
Thanks, Dana. Yeah, Brian.
What I love that you frame this in the idea of flooding, like the emotional flooding that we experience, because many of us have that trauma with ADHD. We're like, oh, another thing I have to problem solve right now, and technology is challenging to some of us, especially myself in some specific context. And I know you're familiar with this when we're overwhelmed or we are somehow physically dysregulated, there's a really great acronym I like to use, HALT, HALT, hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. Those are all different kinds of flooding or physical dysregulation that will interfere with our emotional regulation and, like, by extension, our executive functioning. I'm going to file this tech issue under A for angry. And I have been practicing with using a somatic approaches. I am a big fan of mindfulness and specifically breathwork meditation, which is something I use to re-regulate my nervous system when I'm feeling a little overwhelmed. And I don't know if you're familiar with these techniques. I've learned most of them from, we all know Alejandro Santiago, who's a member of our alumni community and teaches a fabulous weekly breathwork seminar on our alumni community. I had him drop into my coaching session the other day to do a little demo for our current members. And yeah, consider something like that, a physical interrupt for that flooding, which can be different somatic approaches. It can be a breathwork approach, like doing a couple minutes of breath of fire. It can be splashing cold water on your face. It can be jumping up and down or doing a couple push-ups, anything that gives you some pattern interrupt that disrupts that ongoing flood of emotions. And if you have 8 minutes left, if you take 2 minutes to do that or something like that, those other 6 minutes will become much more available to you in terms of executive function.
Yeah, that
There's
makes a
a
lot of
lot of
sense.
different things we can do. And oftentimes when we're trying to correct our emotional dysregulation or executive function, we don't think of somatic approaches or getting into the body. But I find like that's probably one of the fastest, most effective ways to get myself back on track.
And what am I? What I was born to be, a dancer. I move, and that makes so much sense. That makes so much sense is why I dysregulate, because I'm on a computer. I'm sitting. I'm not, and that's what has always helped me be grounded.
You ever try to stand at a desk?
I want to see your IT crisis interpretive dance, Kristen. I hope you record it.
Not a mouse pad. It's a dance floor for your mouse.
I love that you brought all of those to the table, Brian, because I couldn't agree more with the somatic practices and the mindfulness practices and the breath work and disrupting, with balance and coordination, with body movement. And that's great, Kristen, that you're, connecting to this because you are a mover and you are a dancer and you want to embody yourself. And it's the greatest way to flip that switch from the default mode.
I want to hear from Laura, and then I want to get some other questions as well.
Okay.
So, Laura, go ahead.
Yep.
So I want to go ahead and build on what everybody else has said so far. The very first thing that came to mind, Kristen, when you said that you feel flooded, is I thought, oh, we're heading back into the stress cycle conversation, because we always come back to the stress cycle conversation. So looking at how do we close our stress loop. But I think taking a step back, there's actually two pieces here. There's the practical piece, and then there's the stress loop piece. So we've got two equal priorities. You want to solve this practical thing, and at the same time, you've got this stress loop going on the side. And so one is necessary, the practical one, and the other one is overriding that. So you need to find the next step practically while figuring out how to close this stress cycle, much like Dan and Brian and Eric
because I have, Laura, because I've grown so much with not being late and actually being the on-time ADHD version of 5 minutes early. And it immediately added more stress. And so this is awesome. I did, while Brian was sharing the grounding, I also tend to metaphor and visualize, and I slowed down my pinball by thinking of pool billiards.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Because they're slowing down as they go, and I like to play that game. So
that's so funny, because
so I'm going to add that to my imagery, because sometimes if I can't move, like I can choreograph without moving. And so that I'm curious if that would help. I love these, y'all. Thank you.
And this goes straight into the billiards, goes straight into what I was just thinking, because I find it's hard to calm myself down. So I've got a routine go-to phrase, much like your billiards thing. My go-to phrase is for tech. This is why my husband has a job. Thinking about how I might calm somebody else down can be helpful. And so that's sometimes what I'll tell, like, my mom when she's stressed out. I'm like, this is why my husband has a job. So thinking about how do I calm somebody else down, I think, can I use that on myself?
It's like putting a positive spin when I'm being negative toward the tech. And so, I like that.
And negative towards yourself.
So great.
which is also reinforcing that,
Yeah.
And I think for so many of these ideas are can be applied to not just tech. I mean, look, but Brian and Kristen, what happened last week when we set to record something? There was a miscommunication. I got dysregulated because I was like
Confusion and miscommunication.
right. And so
Yeah.
and I'm not someone that gets like angry, but I was like really like irritable and like snippy. And so I said, you know what? I need to take so I just said, I'm turning my camera off, and I did a 6-minute guided meditation because I knew my brain was flooded. Right. And so it's like,
and you came back so differently too. So that was amazing to see, because I didn't know when you left at first. You said, I just need a minute. And then I think you texted us you were doing that. And I was like, oh wow, that really shifted. It was a nice observer feature in a sense. Yeah, that, oh man.
yeah, the one other piece specifically to tech, and then I'm gonna go to the next question. Because I've been doing this for a decade, and I have had so many different occurrences where like we're live, whether it's in a group session or a webinar or whatnot, and something tech isn't working. The one of the things that actually helps me is slowing myself down, knowing that everyone there watching is just really glad it's not them.
Oh yeah, when you're in front of the audience thing. Yeah, taking it into slow
And even
motion.
just
I
like
like that.
say it out loud, even saying like my brain sometimes like the gears kind of lock when I'm doing this in front of people. So thank you for your patience, and then just focus on
Yeah,
trying
that's an added. Yeah, that's nice. I'd like to say that I'm really glad that you brought that back full circle to the thing that I brought up, that I don't know how to transplant things and apply it in other areas, because I want everyone out there listening to sort of take note of that, if that's a struggle you have too within this conversation, and go, put it somewhere where you can remember it. That way, when it's something different, you can go back and look and go, oh wait, I can try it here too, because we try to coach around that in the program a lot.
All right.
Thank you all.
Great. Person who knew this was going to be a little bit of a little hot seat for you. Oh, hopefully this is helpful for you.
Yeah, it did. It was a mini mastermind. That was
all
awesome.
Right.
Thanks.
Awesome. All right, we got a question from Jennifer, who's going to ask her question live. Jennifer, go ahead. Jennifer, you are unmuted. Go ahead.
All right, can you hear me now?
Keep talking. The audio is a little bit spotty. Go ahead, and I'll stop you if it's choppy.
I apologize. Okay, thank you. Well, hello everyone. This is my first time joining, and I already feel like I found my tribe, so I'm really excited about that. My question is, I work for a large corporation, recently started a new job within the organization, and a lot more demand, a lot more moving pieces, and I'm already kind of falling behind and getting stressed out about it. Would you all suggest a person who has ADHD tell their managers or tell their team that they have it, or might it hurt them in their possible growth within the company in the long run?
If you were to ask me this question 6, 7, 10 years ago, I would say no, like it is too high risk to disclose that. Just tell people what you need in the workplace, so you don't need to disclose ADHD. But like, for example, I can't hold on to anything in my head. I had a boss once who would catch me in the hallway or in the parking lot and like tell me 3 things I needed to do, and there was 0% chance I was going to remember any of them. So all I said to my boss was, hey, would you be able to either email me, or can I follow you to your office so I can have a moment to write that down so I make sure I get that done? Right. Or I had a job where I was all the therapists were sort of in this back workspace, and people were writing reports, making phone calls. Like, I can't work when other people are talking. Like, it's my brain. It says not a chance. Right. So I was able to reserve the conference room when it wasn't being used, so I can do any kind of writing or any kind of calls I needed to make. So it's really all about identifying the actual like functional challenge and the solution for that challenge. Right. That being said, I do think that there is a tide that has been shifting in the workplace around self-disclosure. Um, how large is the company?
I don't know exactly, but thousands of employees.
Thousands of employees. Okay. And
my team's limited to the people that I directly interact with, probably 20.
okay. And what would be your best case scenario for disclosing?
I don't know. Maybe just a little bit more understanding, hopefully.
Okay. And what would you want them to understand?
Maybe when I'm running behind, or I let them know I'm feeling overwhelmed, to maybe look at unloading some of the tasks. I also made a mistake of volunteering for a lot of things coming on board, which I'm like, I better just stop volunteering myself for things, because I don't have the time. What was I thinking? But I don't know. Best case scenario is they're just more understanding. At least, helping me find solutions to, like, a lot of my teammates are actually really awesome, and they have shared with me how they keep organized with their tasks, and they use OneNote. And for a while I'm like, oh, that's I forget to pull up OneNote. I just write things on paper, and I have many different papers laying around. Where did I write that on? I don't know. So I think just trying to always bring up OneNote as part of my routine when I start my computer, and have it up on this screen, one of my 3 screens that I have. That's helped some, and definitely keeps me from trying to find my notes over and over again from which notebook I put it in. So I'm hoping that it doesn't hurt me by sharing that with them, but I just wanted to get y'all's take on that.
Yeah, so Jennifer, one of the things that I think is really important to keep in mind is that you don't know what the person like knows or thinks they know about ADHD when you tell them. So when you tell them whatever their understanding about ADHD, and it could be like anything from ADHD is made up, or it's an excuse, or like all the ones we are hopefully would not be on the receiving end of someone of that information. So you have to be sort of ready and willing to be able to have that, to navigate that conversation, right? Also, it is not your employer's job to come up with your accommodations. You need to be the person that says, hey, I'm having a hard time because doing this. Could I do that? Right? So could I use the conference room? Could I check in with you more regularly about this long-term project? Could I wear noise canceling headphones while I'm working? The workplace needs to provide reasonable accommodations that don't cost the business, a lot of money, because you still have to do the job that's expected of you, but you can do it with accommodations, right? There's a great website, I think it's called askjan.com. It's all about like disability accommodations. So just Google Ask Jan, workforce accommodations. So that could be really helpful. But yeah, it's because it's one of those things that once you self-disclose, you can't put that cat back in the bag, right? So
Okay.
that's why I say if
Doesn't
you're not sure, talk about what the challenge is and what you propose as a solution to that challenge.
So for people that do work in large organizations, that maybe letting HR know that there may be accommodations you might need, and do
Sometimes
typically,
that's still risky though. So it's like
yeah.
there's the law that protects you on what's on paper, but then it's what happens in real practice, right? Are you going to want to go through the process of having to get attorneys involved if they don't do what they're supposed to by law?
No.
Right. So, right, and that sucks, but it is on us as to develop that self-advocacy skills that begins with that self-awareness of what the challenge is and what we need to be successful. Kristen?
Two separate thoughts around this. I immediately, when you said that about going to HR, I immediately thought of my son going to college. And one of the first things the counselor said was build that relationship with your professors, tell them tell them what you need, and they can help you determine the strategy. So that's a nice piece to think about and how to do this. The metaphor I thought of was you find out you're pregnant early on. You don't know what you're doing with this. You're sick. So what do? You don't go in and tell the whole story to your boss. Hey, I think I might be pregnant. I really need to sit by the door during the meeting and I might have to step out and blah, 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 blah. You just go in and say, hey, I'm feeling sick today. I need to sit by the door. That's all you do. It's none of their business what's going on in our brains and stuff. I also then did the whole sitting in that boss's seat. That boss could have ADHD and doesn't want to disclose, and we've just overwhelmed that person because they have too many answers, or they feel like, oh God, I have to caretake this and I can barely do myself. Or you tell a person, like what Eric said, they don't know much, they're either dismissive or they feel like you have just told them to solve your problems. We got to think about the stressors they're sitting in too, I think, when you share that information. And some of those can be knee-jerk reactions because they're avoidant. Maybe they are empathetic toward it, but they're like, oh God, that's one more thing I just can't deal with right now. And you have no idea what that story is, where they are in their own place. So I really think one of the biggest things they need to know is, what is it you need? And I think sometimes if you share, it's not the solution, but it's here's the problem, like being transparent, like you said, oh, I think I volunteered too much. Be transparent. If that's the person you need to tell, or a coworker, go up and say, look, I was so excited when I got in here and I apparently just say yes to everything because I really want y'all to like me and like what I do. And then go, I need somehow to empty my plate or to stop filling my plate. What's a good strategy y'all can think of, what's the way we can work this out to really just sort of set up what the problem is and get them to help you with that.
I think it's great.
I think it's better. And people walk around with these different kinds of problems and they don't have full-blown ADHD. And that's okay too. They don't need to know.
Yeah.
I really feel that way. You could also get a boss that changes jobs in the middle and you have disclosed it. And that was a boss that worked great with you. Now that new boss has information and they are not helpful because it's already out there. And that's another thing that could really,
Laura?
Yeah, I've found, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm just going to jump in and say, this is going to sound pessimistic, but as you go through whatever process you personally choose to do, document what you were doing. You never know when things are going to go wrong. They may, it's entirely possible they will never think anything is wrong with you and they're delighted with your performance and they're happy to accommodate you, but you don't know what's going to happen. And, who knows, they may even suspect that something is up. And yes, you can go to HR, but just always remember HR is primarily there to protect the company. Even if they're a very nice person and they're very kind to you and they value you as a human being, their job is to protect the company.
And
So
Laura, I would say email that because you want to create
Yes.
a timestamp paper trail. So whoever you
Always.
need to email it to, a partner, a friend, a close friend, it doesn't have to be somebody in the agency, but that way
Yeah.
it timestamps it.
Definitely. And same thing, if there's stuff in your work email, you can forward that to yourself at home so that you have a copy of that yourself. So just look out for yourself as you're going through all these things because you're the one who has your back ultimately.
Brian?
I just wanted to circle around to the comments about signing up for more than we can handle, feeling that pressure in a new job. And I have discovered after working with a whole bunch of ADHD folks in our coaching program that, and from my own experience, that, people pleasing is pretty endemic to ADHD folks. And I consider myself a recovering people pleaser. A lot of us, we have these backgrounds where we feel like we may be coming from a place emotionally where we feel like we're less able. We are believing the stories that we've been told all our lives about our capabilities, and we want to overcompensate for that. And I'm speaking we in the very general. I don't know your particular situation, but I would say I like to frame everything positively in my coaching or in a positive light. But one of my favorite framing questions in any planning approach is, what am I saying no to? And that's a question we should be asking ourselves all the time. Like, for example, like I want to get all this done this week, but I'm going to say no to meetings requests that I don't really need to be in. or I'm going to say no to a new project. Maybe focus for a while on working on your accommodations and getting your actual workflow working well, and then sign on for new projects a few months down the road. So that's one thing I would just really encourage you to incorporate in your approach to this. Like, what can I say no to, but without not feeling like that's a negative? Not that you're denying people access to you, but you're framing it as, I'm protecting my executive function. I'm protecting my ability to function well in this job and be a whole, healthy version of myself.
Awesome. Jennifer, I hope that was helpful for you. And hopefully you'll
That's
get to
very, very helpful. Thank
come
you.
back next month and let us know, give us an update. We'd love to hear that. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick break for the podcast here, and we will be right back with more of your questions. So we will be right back. All right, for everyone who is here live on Zoom or on YouTube, I just want to let everyone know that we are in the midst of registration for our spring coaching season. The website is coachingrewired.com. Just get your name on our interest list, and we will send you the information that you need to get signed up. We are going into our 36th season of doing this. So if you're looking for a program that's actually been around for a while, that we kind of know what we're doing over here. We have a really thriving community, and it's an intensive 10-week program. And one of the best things I think about the program is that because one of our guarantees is at the end of our 10 weeks, you will still have ADHD. We have a really thriving membership community for our alumni to help with ongoing support from there. So that's our coaching program. And if you're looking for some virtual co-working, check out adultstudyhall.com. You can try it free for the first week. I think right now we have 11 facilitated co-working sessions a week, and then we have a 24/7 room that's always open. So you can check that out as well. And if you haven't yet subscribed to Kristen and Marta's podcast, the ADHD Creatives podcast, check it out. She just dropped her 5th episode in the last week. So check that out. All right, let's see. Is there anyone else that wanted to go live so we can get them pulled up so we can transition it back?
No.
No? Okay. All right, we are back. All right, we have a question here from Chad. And Chad says, hi, everyone. Just recently diagnosed with ADHD inattentive type. I'm currently on Elevance, 70 milligrams, but have a lot of side effects. Was wondering if you experienced that with that particular med, and for inattentive type, what is the best med to try? Here's why I like this question, because I think it's a question I see often, and it's a question I want to encourage people to not ask, because we individually will always respond differently to different medications. It is, we hear trial and error, and initially that might sound like, oh, do they even know what they're doing? They're just throwing something at the wall, hoping it sticks. But when we look at the ADHD meds, statistical analysis shows that try one class of stimulant. If that one doesn't work, first of all, tweak the dosages, or then try a different stimulant or different class of stimulant. There are lots of different stimulant medications that can have and different preparations, whether it's short acting, immediate release. Like my son uses a patch, and that works well for him. Not Daytrana, that's the patch. I forgot the name of my medication. That's funny. My Deus, thank you. I knew it'd come to me. My Deus, it's supposed to be a 16-hour version of Adderall. I get like 12 hours out of it. So there is no best for any particular subtype either, right? It is a bit of trial and error, but typically within 2 or 3 different trials of medications, most people find one that works well for them. Doesn't mean it's not without any side effect, but the idea is we want to try to get to that highest maximum dose without side effect. And sometimes we need to, in that doing of those trials and medications, we actually want to kind of break through that ceiling of, oh, this is too much, like I'm too anxious or I'm not sleeping. And then we come back down, because one of the things that research has shown is that lots of people with ADHD are under medicated because doctors are afraid to prescribe too high of a dose. And what is too high of a dose? That is individually based. right? If you have a doctor that knows what they're doing, they can even prescribe higher than FDA recommended doses. It just means it wasn't studied at that dose. But I have, at different points in my life, have definitely taken and been prescribed to take doses that are higher than FDA recommended doses, right? So trial and error, talk to your doctor, tell them the side effects you're having. First tweak with doses, timing, and then try different medications. Dana?
Yeah, I wanted to say that also, I think sometimes doctors, if they're not an ADHD expert, also sometimes I've found recently they're afraid to prescribe a stimulant medication, or they don't believe in a stimulant medication, which the research shows that that is actually the most effective overall in most populations. But if you want to learn more specifically about medication, Russell Barkley has some great YouTube videos now that he's retired. Everything is online, and you can just Google Russell Barkley and ADHD medication. And some are 15 minutes long, some are an hour long, but really helpful in terms of which medication can do which thing, like help activate executive function, which might be an issue with inattentiveness, or stimulants in terms of impulsivity. So he really describes that very well in his videos, whether you're average Joe or whether you're a clinician. It's super helpful information. And he has 2 PDFs on his website as well that is specific to medication. You can bring that to your doctor and talk to them about that and help them become an expert along with you, so that you can share in that understanding and finding, like Eric said. Unfortunately, it is a lot of trial and error, but all the like mythology around ADHD and medication and stimulants and DEA and FDA and shortages informs that sometimes. So,
I just learned at our alumni session, because one of our members shared that this person was in California and the telehealth rules have changed, where they had a prescriber who was in a different part of the state, and the pharmacy said because they're further away than they're not right locally in town, they will no longer accept those prescriptions via telehealth from psychiatrists unless they are right near the pharmacy. So that was actually new to me as of this morning. So yeah, it's another barrier, another hurdle we gotta kind of jump through. So you might want to check on that as well. Kristen.
Yes. Let me state first, I am not an MD at all. I'm not a
None of us here
psychiatrist.
are.
Yeah. And so, but my doctor who prescribes my meds and prescribed my son's, I had asked that quick question. I was like, why is he Adderall and I'm, Ritalin or methylphenidate? And he had actually described this long before with depression medicine and said that there's a lot of components to meds and how they're created and how they're activated or how they're transferred in the body. So it could be that, imagine like a floodgate, and this medicine is going to be this much, it's going to be an 8-ounce glass and it's going to flood it into your system. However, you might get a different medicine that's an 8-ounce glass and it's only going to open it a little bit. So it's going to have to leak through. So it's slowly going to go. That's just one element of, and it works on different parts of the brain. So there are so many elements. So consider too looking at medicines as different ways it's delivered, because I don't know the specifics to which is which, but that's how he was. I think that's how he was telling me my depression medicine before wasn't working and why he was changing it. But yeah, my son and I were genetic, and he needs a different kind than I need, because that's so you do have to do. So I got lucky and it worked right away, but you do have, a lot of times you do have to do some trial and error. I say have to if you really want to find and not abandon the idea of using medicines.
Yeah. Yeah. And there was a comment in the Zoom chat about who had added some supplements, and maybe that works. The thing I always want to say about with supplements is that, like, it's not FDA regulated. We don't actually know what we're getting in those supplements. So I always say consumer beware, and just be careful and cautious. Because it's, People like the whole all natural approach, but I'm telling you, those supplement pills don't grow on trees either. They're made pretty much in the same way as the medications are, except with more oversight and more quality control. It's amazing how many articles I've read of consumer watch groups doing purity tests on these different supplements, and how often what they say is in the thing is not, and the opposite too, things that are in there that aren't supposed to be.
That is so true, Eric. My doctor put me on iron because I was running low. And I said, well, I really need slow release. And he said, are you buying these off the shelf? And I said, yeah. And he said, there's a kind that I want you to order that is still over the counter. He goes, but I've done my research around these. So even medical doctors, if they're doing research around it, my dermatologist just prescribed something over the counter because of the reports they're getting, the articles they're reading about it. So it's not that it doesn't necessarily work. It's nice to have a medical professional be able to go, here's what I know about it too. So you could ask your doctors, they might know some things about those.
Awesome. Great question. All right, let's go to another question. This one is from Becky. All right. Everyone talks about how easily bored we can get. Those with ADHD. I am never, ever bored. Ever. How does that make sense? Am I just so quick at changing what my mind is engages in that I do not perceive this so-called boredom? My mind is super quick, and I have a zillion thoughts to engage me in, always, not to mention just being engaged with looking around at things around me or people watching. So even when I zone out from what I'm supposed to be doing or thinking about, I still don't get bored. Boredom, really the word that that should be using to describe or losing focus. All right. Yeah, as I'm reading this, I was like, what would it be like to not experience boredom? I have no idea.
So I can go out on a limb here. Because I'm a clinical therapist and I worked with so many kids, and I would get I'm bored. And I go to trainings all the time, and something that was proposed at a training and then the pieces started fitting when I go back to work with my kids was sometimes boredom is depression, is a lack of interest in things anymore. I think when we're talking about boredom, we're talking about the dreaded things that aren't interesting to do, that we lose motivation to keep working on. And I think you might be right in that it seems like boredom, but what you've described in your question is about boredom, just sitting there going, I don't know what to do. I'm like you. I could do anything, anytime. I have too many things I want to do. And I know too that when I get into a depression mode, when it dips, I don't want to do anything. And everything sounds boring to me. So there's that idea of kind of fleshing that out for yourself. Is this about a dreaded thing because it's so lack of, creative stimulation and mind stimulation? Like, I don't know, things that we have to do, reports we have to write, or a school paper that we're not interested in. So I would, talk to whoever's talking to you about it and ask them to describe it for you every time you have these kind of conversations.
Kristen, so this person asked the question, followed up, saying that that they're not like easily bored, or maybe that shouldn't be the number one thing people focus on for diagnosing. And I don't know if I would say that is if there even is a number one thing people focus on, because there is a cluster of symptoms. There's we have 9 symptoms of hyperactivity and impulsivity. 6 are impulsivity. 3 is 6 is hyperactivity, 3 is impulsivity. We have 9 of inattentiveness, and for adults, we only need 5 of those 9 plus a history of that, right? And so we can have all different flavors of ADHD. I think I once heard if you did a mathematical factorial of all the permutations that can reach an ADHD diagnosis, there was I think it was something like 64,000.
Yep.
And that was when the criteria was 6 out of 9. For now, it's adults, it's 5 out of 9. So it's even bigger than that.
Every person has some little element different standing in that line.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you also say that out of fear of this, if a medical professional or clinical professional told you that is the number one thing to look for, I'd find you a different medical professional to go to. Because There's no number one. There's no one thing. Forget number one thing, because everyone's so unique.
Laura?
I'm 100% on board with both you, Eric, and Kristen on this one. I was looking at the second part of Becky's question, and I just wanted to weigh in and emphasize, just as you guys were saying, that everyone's ADHD presents differently, and we all have different levels of functioning in different categories of our ADHD. And people can honestly, when being helpful, can be kind of cruel. They think they're being helpful. And they'll say, you don't really have ADHD. You're so good at insert thing here. And that can make us really doubt ourselves and think, do I really have ADHD? And so if you're ever worrying about that, that's incredibly common. I just wanted to throw that out there. And I know I have experienced this and other people have experienced this, and just how incredibly frustrating it is to have somebody say, no, you don't actually have this condition that, you know, ample medical professionals have said, actually, yes, you absolutely do. So just wanted to put that out there, and really, if you're different, that's okay.
Dana?
Yeah, I wanted to comment on what Kristen mentioned briefly about, you know, children saying, I'm bored, because I hear that a lot too. And it's our brain is craving constant stimulation. And when we're not getting that constant stimulation, especially when we don't have the rational thought as children to know what that is and how that feels, then it looks like boredom, or we say it's boredom, right? But it might just be all kinds of other things, like Kristen mentioned, like a lack of interest or lack of stimulation, or it could be daydreaming, where it looks like a child is doing nothing, but really their mind is just focusing on, you know, pinballing from different things to different things. And so again, and backing what Laura just said, ADHD looks so different in so many people. Yes, we can be similar and we can be a group and we're a community, and there's links and golden threads throughout, but everyone is different, and our character and our experience and our history also informs, and our core values, you know, also informs that as well. So that's kind of the, you know, beauty and diversity there too with ADHD, and that's why it's so difficult sometimes to diagnose as well.
Kristen?
Also, nothing is a diagnosis unless it's causing you impairment in your daily life. I was not diagnosed as a kid. I wasn't diagnosed until I was working in a world that wasn't the creative arts. They would excuse all my hyper and impulsivity as a kid. They're like, oh, I was running across grocery stores leaping. I could have run into people around the corner easily. Probably did. I was aggravating the hell out of my mother making tapping sounds because we'd go after church on Sundays to shop. And I'd be like, because I couldn't be still. And everybody just excused it. I'm talking as a teenager. I'm remembering this at like age 16, 17. And I'm like, they didn't know the mask stuff. They didn't know I was having trouble. I used to love to read, but in high school, I had so many things to do that I was getting to the point of, oh, wait, who's Billy Bob from 2 pages ago? Because he came back into the story I was reading. And I'm like, and I never could get it done. And that can be a real hindrance too. It's how's it presenting? When is it impacting your life in such a way that you know, you're not able to solve the problem? What part of this is your personality? And that's okay too. Or temperament, or who are you engaging? Maybe y'all have similar personalities and you're just doing this. So I highly always recommend that you go see a medical professional who has all, you know, the what's the word I'm trying to say, Eric? The
Credentials?
I was saying the criteria. That's the word I was looking for. The criteria, and they understand it, because it's not just about I do this and do this and do this. It's how long do you do this? Do you do this in more than one arena? You know, have you been doing this since you were a kid? Did you have some big wreck or lost a family member and now you're doing it? Did it cut, you know? So there are a lot of things that we have to consider when we create that as listed as a diagnosis. And I even like to say nowadays, I just go, I don't say my ADHD, I say my presentation of ADHD. I've just gotten to where I say it like that because it's so different for everyone.
You know, it's circling back to a previous question, the person that asked about a specific medication for inattentive. this brings to the other point that part of why we've changed from a subtype to a presentation is what research has shown is that these presentations are not stable, that they do change over time. So that's one of the reasons why the different medications for the presentations, it doesn't really make a difference, right? So, I used to be way more like inattentive. I would say I'm definitely more combined type. Now, so it's if something can change over time, then it's the way we present isn't always going to be the same either, right? I used to be able to like chill out like easily. Like I used to be so good at that. Now it's like I'm having to relearn how to relax. It's, and I don't know if that's just a outcome of age or who the hell knows. But all I know is that the one thing that is constant is that we keep changing. We keep, and growing and evolving and whatnot. So let's do this. We're going to take one more quick break and we're going to come back and we have one more question. So we will be right back. All right, everyone who's here live, just one more quick reminder, coaching groups registration. We have an event actually on Thursday, this coming Thursday. So go to coachingrewired.com to learn more about that. And we have, all right, let me transition it back into the podcast. And we're back. Irene, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing? What is your question?
My question is how to approach what is likely undiagnosed ADHD in an underaged family member.
Are you the parent?
No, this is a cousin of mine.
Okay. What's your relationship with the parents?
Father is not in the picture. The mother is my aunt. She is fairly, she does not recognize the ADHD. Wonder why.
Okay.
ADHD is running rampant in both sides of the family tree. And the kid is really starting to struggle. He's been in trouble both with his family, with school, with law enforcement after what he himself said was dumb and stupid stuff. Knew immediately that this wasn't great.
How old is your cousin?
He is about 14, 15. So he's going to
Okay.
start the equivalent of high school next year.
Okay. And are you close with him?
Fairly, yes.
Okay. Have you ever shared that you have ADHD with him?
Yes, he is aware, and I think he himself might have an inkling that this is a thing.
My first thought is just keep having those conversations and talking about yourself and those kind of things with him, and because if it comes from him, maybe parents will be a little bit more open to hear that.
Yeah.
Kristen?
I think too, if he gets in enough trouble with the law, which I hate that might be the final option, is that a judge can order those things. And so I don't know what kind of conversation you could have with the parent around that, if that is of heightened importance right now, and to consider, dropping that in her ear. You can ignore it if that's what she's doing, but a judge won't if he gets in trouble again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so something to think about. At least you're in the States, so I don't, yeah.
And I definitely, for anyone who maybe is a little resistant to even like hearing information about ADHD, I always recommend How to ADHD because it's short and it's really like it's entertaining, it's light, and it's easy to digest, right? Which is really helpful. Like don't send them my podcast as the first thing. It's too long, right? Like once you're already interested in ADHD, then you can do ADHD rewired. But go short form for people who are a little bit kind of really resistant to the ideas around ADHD. Dana?
Yeah, this is a hard one because so many people in denial and don't understand, right? It's just a misunderstanding of what ADHD is and how all the different ways it can present, and especially when a child is labeled as a behavior issue. and that child themselves doesn't want to do the thing that they're doing. And it's very difficult to have that kind of self-control and self-regulation at that age. It's just not developmentally there. We're 2 to 3 years behind at that age in terms of executive function and developmental ability. So that's even harder than the average teen, and they deal with so much. And you said dad's not there, so there's that larger picture of family relationships and social setting and environment. But I like what Eric said in terms of, yeah, maybe not coming from you personally towards the parent, but maybe if it was an article or a podcast or a cool video like Eric suggested, Jessica's How to ADHD videos on YouTube, because they're very relatable and very easy to digest, and they can be super helpful in terms of just connecting to one little thing that they might be like, oh, this is me, or oh, this is my child. And so it's just finding the right thing that might be, and to, like Eric said, just keep talking to that child and saying, I'm here and I support you and whatever you need, because that's going to be essential in their development too.
I'm just gonna keep on having the conversations and being a supportive human in its life.
Yes. 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 And share with that child what was helpful to you at that age as well, because your personal experience goes a long way.
Yeah.
And
Good
hopefully
point.
he can, connect to that in some way.
Thanks for that question. I mean, we all need good humans in our life. So thanks for being that to your cousin there. That's wonderful.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. We are almost out of time here. I did want to, there are 2 questions. I want to see if we can sort of lightning round respond to these, and then we'll wrap this one up. So one of the questions was from Chad. How do you do the jobs you really, really, really hate but have to? For example, tidying my flat, simple task for everyone, but for me, it's like a suffocating task that I keep postponing. Please, no judgment. First of all, there is 0 judgment here. Like, that's because I think we're all relating to that question. Doing the stuff that we don't have any interest in doing, like, that is the disability, right? Like, that is the challenge. It is like the amount of sort of sideways, creative, absurd, off the wall things I sometimes need to put in place in order to get those kinds of things done is amazing. Like, does anyone here actually host dinner parties for any other reason than motivation to clean your home? Right? I mean, it's like, because I don't see the stuff unless I know people are coming over, and then it's like all of a sudden, oh, that pile has been in the corner for the last 4 months. I just stopped seeing it until I knew someone was coming over. Kristen?
That's exactly where I was going. It's a question for you. What is something that does get you activated? Like for me, it's different kinds of songs. And can you do that thing at the same time in tidying? Is it a podcast? Is it that? Is it a TV show? Is it, having a friend over? Is it, chatting with somebody on the phone? Figure out what is something that activates you, and then try to toggle it with the task of tidying.
So I know for like recurring tasks, like accountability, because then you can sort of predict oh, I have this thing I know I'm going to need to do. I also know there is not a chance in hell I'm going to have any desire to do it, but I really need to get it done. If it's a recurring task, whether it's cleaning or maybe paying bills, or you can set up accountability structures to help you get that stuff done. The other piece to it is breaking it down to the absolute smallest step. You may have heard me say before that starting is the hardest part. So let's say you have dishes that you have to clean that are sitting in the sink and you are sitting on the couch. It's really hard to do dishes when you're sitting on the couch. So what's the first step? Stand up and only focus on standing up. If you're like, all right, I stood up, you still have 0 desire to do any of those dishes, but can you walk towards the kitchen? You can do that. Great. Get yourself into the kitchen. Can you stand in front of the sink? Great. You're there. Can you turn the water on? You still feeling the resistance. Don't want to do it. You're standing there in front of the sink. You got the water on. You take that first plate and you're still feeling that dread. You're like, oh, I still don't want to do this. You grab the sponge. you wash off that first plate. All of a sudden, you're going to notice now that you started this task, the rest of it isn't going to feel as hard, right? It's often this like the idea like the paper tiger or paper dragon, like it feels super scary. It feels super hard and challenging. And often once we start, like we can get on a roll. So maybe it's also maybe you've done 2 dishes and you're like, I still don't want to do this. And you set a timer for 2 minutes. See if you can push for 2 minutes. If you like, I still like this hurts inside me. I don't want to do this anymore. Okay, fine, stop. But you also may find that after 2 minutes, you can keep going, right? So really just keep breaking it down to the smallest step.
Quick offer for the when it's often and when it doesn't work, celebrate the wins of progress that you make. It took me going to the gym 2 times and sitting in the parking lot before I actually went inside. And I still celebrated that. I was like, well, I got dressed and I went to the gym. Whatever baby step you celebrate, because you can walk away from those dishes. They weren't going to get done if you didn't try this.
So not going anywhere.
Maybe it's the third step. Maybe it's the third step that you succeed at the second time. And that's great. That's still progress. Don't look at it as a failure.
All right, let's do one more quick question and then we're going to wrap this one up. So Kathleen asked, so I've always been a night owl, but it seems to have gotten worse. Not sure if it's the ADHD medication, which I've only been taking for a couple of years. My husband's stint in a job with swing shifts, working from home and not having to get up and out of the house every day. So it's hard to get my my SS into bed.
Ass.
Oh, maybe. Okay.
Yeah. Asterisks
If
with
we
SS.
that's probably like when do we believe stuff here? Come on. All right.
I know Kathleen. She's being ladylike here.
I have a bad case of one more thing itis. Then I get my day off to a late start and I feel like I'm behind all day. What have other people tried that helps? Have you tried the auto ejecting bed with retractable spikes? Because that could work if that were a thing. Accountability, like, what if, I don't know if you're a coffee drinker and if how you feel about going to, like, say, your local Starbucks, can you order a drink on your phone? Now you have to go get it, get out of bed, right? So sort of engineering that urgency, having a meeting earlier in the day that forces you to sort of get out of bed. Because I also struggle when I have nothing to do and no time pressures with anything. Laura?
So I think the nighttime portion of this can probably be described as one type of revenge bedtime procrastination, which is a phrase that's been coming up a lot lately. And if you haven't heard of it, revenge bedtime procrastination describes the decision to sacrifice sleep for leisure time that is driven by a daily schedule lacking in free time. And that can have, a spectrum of how that's working. And for some of us, free time might mean time around the house that isn't actually our job. So, still getting stuff done and feeling really good and productive because you're doing this stuff, but you're also sacrificing your sleep in the process. Attitude had a really good webinar about this a few months back, and I would recommend Googling it and going and listening to that. It was really strong.
Awesome. And, there's always the, bedtime accountability buddies or wake up accountability buddies. Like, it's literally, and if you're like me and not always the most functional person first thing in the morning, and you do need that accountability, it can literally be an agreed upon, say a FaceTime chat with no talking. It's just literally just like showing that you're out of bed. Right. So there are lots of things you can do sort of about that can help. For those of you here live, if you have any other ideas, throw those in the chat for Kathleen. And that's all the time we have for today. I want to thank everyone who asked questions. I want to thank all of our panelists. And I just want to remind everyone who is here again that registration for our coaching groups is going on now. So come join us. We don't have to keep just trying harder. We can try differently, and having a community to do this growth work with truly does make all the difference in the world. So thank you for being here, and we will catch you back here next month. Thank you, everybody.
Bye, y'all.